My new interactive experience, similar to a Choose Your Own Adventure project PCI, will be released this Friday for everyone at midday Central Time, Friday the 20th, midday. Hey noble ones, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking, and today I would like to take this opportunity to do a few things. Well, first of all, we're going to review a few comments, and we will use these as pretexts to discuss about topics that I think are very important and very, very pertinent when it comes to this platform and what we're trying to achieve. And I say we because, of course, this is not just the production of my own research and work, but it's really a teamwork, and I've got a lot of people behind me to help me make sure that I provide good historical and, as much as possible, unbiased information. Let's jump right into it. Alright, so we've got 3 comments to review. We've got a positive comment, we've got a negative comment, very negative comment, and then we've got a comment, the one at the bottom here, that I think is very good because it can help us to discuss something that has to do with the perspective we have towards history, a modern perspective versus a period perspective. Alright, so let's begin with the negative comment. Once again, this is not my way to hate this person. This person is exercising their freedom of speech to present their opinion. It's just that their opinion it's really not founded, unfortunately, on reality, but on the other hand, it shows what I call a political brain is. JW6588 writes, so after watching the video to the end, he's talking about my Did Women Warrior Exist video, this is what I think. The Metatron is taking a typical left-wing tack, I don't know what a tack is, which is to argue against a right-wing position that has been made extreme, id est a straw man. Already this shows that this person sees politics into literally everything. I am not using whatever left-wing tactic you think. I'm not arguing on this video against right-wing positions at all. Are there idiots on the internet who categorically argue that women can never win in a fight against a man? Yes, they exist. Categorical thinking is the hallmark of idiocy. And this, yeah, I agree with it. I mean, there are a few instances in which you can be categorical, such as saying the Roman Empire existed, as opposed to, you know, these people. But apart from that, in general, I agree with this part, so that's great. We are on the same line of thought. So what happened? However, the deal with the straw man is that it doesn't address the real issue at hand, that being the emasculation of men in media and their replacement with mythologized strong women who have only the most strained basis in reality. Okay, this is what I mean when I say this is a political brain. This person, and now they see everything as either right-wing or left-wing, and therefore anything as being us versus them dichotomy. He says that my Did Women Warrior Exist video was a video about the real issue, which was the emasculation of men in media and their replacement. This is not what this video is about. So this comment is out of place. Now, as you know, I'm very much in favor of the idea of any topic can be discussed as long as it's civilized and we can sit down and talk. And if you present any argument and you present any topic, I'll be more than happy to share my opinions, particularly when I can bring in maybe something interesting on the table, such as ancient sources. I'm not against the idea of talking about this. The thing is, though, that that's not what this video is about. Let me say, for those of you who haven't watched it, that this video, Did Women Warriors Exist, is a 30 minutes of solid sources, quotation, and reading. Literally, it's asking an academic question which has to do with the ancient past, asking, but did women warrior exist? And then proceed to answer by providing all the documented evidence that we could find as a team, specifically focusing for this video into the Western European and Indo-Iranian all the way down to the Sassanid Empire context. Now, of course, we could have also talked about African history, we could have talked about Far Eastern history, we will, I have already actually on other videos in the past, but I decided for this video to focus on Indo-Iranian and European, and then make dedicated video to talk about warrior women presence in other continents and in other sections of human history. But regardless of that, that's all we do. And this is why this sort of comment when he says, oh, it's talking about emasculation of me, that's not the topic of the video. Hence, we don't address it because that's not the topic. We're just asking a question about history. He disagrees, of course, and says, so I find the video disingenuous because it is biased in its aims. Not at all. You see, what this person, JW, wanted the video to be, it had to be to debunk left-wing ideas of women. empowered women, I suppose. But that's not what the video is. The video is not a pro-left-wing video either, trying to debunk right-wing positions on women. It's a video that simply asks a historical question: did women warriors exist? And then proceeds to present the evidence that we as a team could find. And one thing that I want to bring up on this video, which I think is a very important aspect and piece of information, is that my videos are the result of teamwork. This is a big team now. It's an ever-expanding team of anthropologists, archaeologists, classicists, published authors, PhD, postdoctoral PhDs, historians, Egyptologists, linguists, specialists, former excavating anthropologists with experience in Syria. My team is composed of so many different professionals that we cannot physically push a political agenda. Why? Because we are all different. There are right-wingers on the team, there are left-wingers on the team, there are centrists, and there are people that I don't even know what sort of politics they have because we never talked about it. But it doesn't matter, because what we do as professionals is that we sit down, we ask a question, we all agree on the question, we produce our research, we bring it together, we read the sources in the original languages, because as a team we can read something like 14 languages, 3 of which are dead. Classical Latin, ancient Greek, classical Chinese, ancient Japanese, we can read Sanskrit, we can read a lot of stuff all together. So we don't rely on other people's translations, and then after we have the evidence, we decide, hey, this is what the evidence from the sources, from the direct mouth of the ancients, this is what seems to be, what appears to be, the answer to whatever question we ask. Then, after we have all the sources that we could find, we proceed to try and qualify these sources to see if they are, how relevant they can be, based on surrounding civilizations, what they said, the other cultures, also archaeological evidence, material goods, literary evidence. And once we are done, then we present what we believe to be the truth based on the documented evidence. This is what we do. I don't know what your game is, Metatron, I just explained it, but it's sad to watch one of the most ostensibly staunch supporters of truth devolve for the sake of appealing to left-wingers. Truly sad. Now, of course, I get people telling that are coming from the other side, so they are full-on left-wingers, that think that I'm just a right-wing grifter, an alt-right supporter, a fascist. I get the other side too. And what that tells you is that our game, as this person calls it, is to show the truth based on the documented evidence for what it is. What he wanted me to do, in this specific case, was to only show the truth that pushed an agenda, a specific narrative that was supported by a specific political side, in this case the right wing, but I get the same on the left wing. The detractors, the people that get mad at me, whether it be right wingers or left wingers on the extreme ends, of course, are those that are mad because they don't want me to show the truth. They want me to hide it when it goes against their agenda. So what I would have to do as a team, my team would leave immediately if I tried to do that. But what they would want me to do is, hey, this specific source, this ancient paragraph, this classical Latin we translated, or now we have the good translation, it says something that supports whatever right-winger politician or influencer is saying, good, show it. Or whatever left-wing political activist is doing, then from their point of view, yeah, show that. But when there is something that instead seems to debunk something that whatever their favorite political party or influencer is pushing, what do I do? Tell me, JW6588, what do I do if what you're saying is that I should be attacking the emasculation of men in media? Great. If that's what I'm supposed to do when I'm making a video about history, not a video about that topic, not a video about media or how the media has become a mess lately, and I know that, I say that, I complain about that all the time. But what do I do when I find multiple passages where they tell us that Sarmatian women fought on the battlefield? What do I do when I find these passages that tell me that Roman legionaries are fighting a contingent of cavalry that fought really well? Of course the Romans win at the end, it's the Romans we're talking about, but then when they remove the helmets they're surprised because, oh my gosh, these were all women. That's what we find. And then we connect it to people from that specific culture that tell us that their women did that. So now that we have all this proof, what do I do, JW? Do I hide it because it offends you or whatever political position you are trying to push? Wrong channel then, because this is the channel of truth based on facts. If this truth happens to support the right on whatever situation that they're trying to push, great. If this truth supports the left, great. I don't care who it supports. It only happens to overlap. That's why it may appear that sometimes this channel is kind of moving left and right, depending on the topic, because we don't have an agenda. This is our game, JW. If you appreciate my content so far and wish to help ensure my ability to continue to tell it how it is, regardless of any possible backlash, please support this channel on Patreon. Any support helps me and my team of academics keep the channel strong and gives us the means to fight back against the political rewriting of history. Stand with us, form the wall, defend the truth. And I love that Nerdy Cookie Girl 8423 nailed it with a comment, and she said, I love how you simultaneously piss off both sides at the same time, and all you did is just state the truth and what is historically recorded. Making the right mad because you've proven women fighters are more common than they believe. I would say the extreme right, not all right-wingers think that. Making the left mad because you show they are either mothers, defenders, mythological beings, or in losing battles. I suppose, but once again, that's just the activist radical left usually that gets upset. The ancients have no political leanings, keep being biased. Okay, I love this comment. Just one small comment, little nitpick at the very end here. The ancients absolutely had political leanings, but of their period. They don't have modern political leanings, so they're not trying to push Trump or Harris, I can tell you that much, but the ancients did have their own political leanings, and sometimes having to sift through actual political propaganda, whether it be, for example, in ancient Rome, pro-senatorial propaganda, anti-imperial propaganda, propaganda that was pro-imperial power instead. Like, you need to be able, and that's why I need a team about it, because we have context, and that's what I did, for example, on my video on Emperor Elagabalus, where some activists were trying to push the idea that he was transgender in the modern sense, whereas we looked into it, and that's where I got attacked by the left and said, oh, some people, not a lot of people in the comments, are left-wingers and right-wingers and centrists. I even got transgender people appreciating the videos. I'm just talking the radicals, the extremists, but the toxic side that got really pissed because I didn't just say, yes, this emperor was transgender in the modern sense and these are their pronouns. I didn't do that. Why didn't I do that? Because I'm a right-wing grifter? No, because as a team we sat down and we discussed and we noticed, hey, a lot of these accusations that this emperor is taking, because everything was in a negative note, by the way, when it comes to his sexuality and how it was, if you read them in actual context, then you see that this is a lot of anti-imperial propaganda and it was actually character assassination attempts, and we proved it on that video. Yes, it upset some people, but I'm not going to hide the truth just to pander towards people, because the only thing I promise, because that would be disingenuous, you know, the person here using the term disingenuous a second ago. No, if I pandered to you, whether you be right-winger, left-winger, if I pandered to you, then I would be disingenuous, because I would be fundamentally unfulfilling the promise I made to each and every single one of you as you subscribe to my channel, that I would have only delivered the truth based on the documented evidence. This is the channel where you come to see, hey, I heard X and I've heard Y, but what is the truth? And then we give you what the evidence is. I believe that I've done that. And also mostly thanks to the team that I have behind me that really helps me and peer reviews my work for authenticity. Now that we've covered that, I would like to talk about the third comment, because it can help us to begin a new discussion, which is modern perspective versus ancient perspective or period perspective. And it's very interesting, so let's do that. So this is a comment from Valterius87, and he says, women can be warriors, sure, but is it in the interest of evolution to have our childbearers taking bullets? I think not. This is an interesting point. I understand where he's coming from, of course, from a merely reproductive or even repopulating perspective. If you need to repopulate a village and you have 1 man and 8 women, you can have 8 kids every 9 months. On the other hand, conversely, if you have 1 woman and 8 men, you can still only produce 1 child every 9 months. So of course it is, from an evolutionary standpoint, a biological standpoint, advantageous to not risk your women in war. I understand where he's coming from. It's very logical. But let's keep reading, because then it gets interesting, and I think it deviates a little bit from how I believe the ancient period, or in general the past, should be approached. It's a biological fact that we are different and we are built differently. 100% agree. Can a woman be an effective fighter? Sure, but I still don't want a woman called on when there is a man left to do the fighting. That isn't an insult, of course, yeah, I understand that. That's pure biology and love for the human species. I don't want to see women in the nastiness that war and fighting are. That's not their job. They get the other nastiness that is rearing children, a whole different beast. Right, the reason why I say that you need to kind of be careful with this approach, if you will, is because it's a subjective, it's anecdotal, and it's mostly a modern, specifically of your own culture perspective, in the sense that you are logically reasoning, but you're applying a reason that is based on the way you were brought up, the area in which you were brought up. And let's not forget that we're all children of our time, in the sense that, yes, in 2024, in whatever, let's pretend this person is American or whatever, European, because these are the highest numbers in my community when it comes to origin of watch time. Let's say you're American. Yeah, that's the way you think, or you're a European. That's the way you think. You're like, no, I wouldn't risk my women. And so you apply this logic and this reasoning onto the ancients of all cultures everywhere on the planet. And that's a problem. I'm not trying to build a straw man, by the way. Of course, if I'm misunderstanding, feel free to leave another comment. But the reason why I do want to focus on that and follow up on that is because there are many people, even if in this case I'm misreading you, there are many people that think that way. They're like, oh, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't wear this type of helmet because it's too risky. For you, but not for a medieval person in the 12th century. They don't think that way. And they have a different risk management / expectation when they went to war because they were brought up differently. They are children of their own era. And when it comes to the application on this specific topic, the idea of, oh, I wouldn't risk women because biologically blah blah blah, yeah, it makes sense now, but it wouldn't make sense in the context of, for example, classical antiquity with the Sarmatian women. It doesn't. Or the Sassanid Empire, they did send women to fight. We know that. It's in the sources, it's in the evidence, it's in the archaeological record, it's in the surrounding cultures. The Romans tell us about it, the Greeks tell us about it. Not only their own people, their women were proficient at using spears and bows, their women were wearing scale armor and were fighting on the battlefield. So even though you wouldn't do it, you can't apply that automatically to people that were brought up in a very different context thousands of years ago. Remember, in a reality where there is no internet connection, so when you are inside a bubble, you are inside that cultural bubble, and within that reality, even though, yes, the biological differences and sexual dimorphism that set aside men and women physically existed, but then again, we are already in a time when women can still be trained how to use a bow, an arrow, women, and usually the sort of bows and arrows that are used by these Indo-Iranian people are not as heavy poundage as, for example, the Mary Rose bow used by longbowmen in the 15th century in England. So you can absolutely draw one of these, because of course when you think about historical warfare, archery, normally from a medieval perspective, you're expected to be able to draw a heavy pound bow all the way up to your ear. That's what we are told. But these are smaller bows, also because they're not fighting against full plate armor. Remember that. It's classical antiquity. And also they were proficient in the use of a spear. For example, if you're using a spear and you're fighting a man, even if the man is stronger, do remember that if the man is not using a spear, for example, then you may have a reach advantage even if you're shorter, for example. And another thing to consider is that in the case of Sarmatians, these are mounted warriors, and therefore they are using the power of the mount, the horse. They are proficient. Oftentimes, these are semi-nomadic people. So whenever you think, oh yeah, but these women, they weren't strong, you can't think of a modern woman, for example, who isn't as physical as a semi-nomadic tribe that was constantly on a horse. They would be a force to be reckoned with. And this is not me trying to be, oh, now I'm a full left-winger pushing a left-wing agenda, women empowerment. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm doing is I'm trying to put this into context based on what the sources say. And truly, I believe the ancient Romans when they tell me that they fought these women and they were proficient. Once again, the Romans won. And I am going to say that, even if it upsets now someone on the other side. I don't care, because that's what the sources tell us. And of course, these are rare occasions. In the majority of cases, as I always repeat, it was men that went to war and not women. And that is because of the differences in biological, not only strength and speed, but also the interest in war and combat, that normally in the majority of cases it's men that are interested in doing that more than women. So it's not just an archetype. There is something that has to do with our psychology as well, not just our physical raw strength. But the sources tell us about these women, and they existed. And I think it's important to not say, oh, that's nonsense, a woman could never be able to take on a man in combat, because the sources tell us otherwise. If the Romans were to fight an entire army of women and they are only using men, well, yeah, that's different. But this is, once again, a rarity. Majority of cases it's men, for obvious reasons, but they did exist. And people that tell you it's impossible, or that in all scenarios and in all situations, when you have men versus women, even with weapons involved, women lose, then that's a categorical statement. It's incorrect and it's wrong. All I'm doing on this platform is presenting what the evidence says. I have no personal interest in pushing my own beliefs and my own politics and my own ideas onto the interpretation of the sources, because that's not what I do, and that's not what I'm interested in doing. I'm only interested in presenting the truth for what it is, raw. Alright, number ones, but I wanted to just share this with you and kind of use these comments as a way to discuss. And I kind of want to finish on a positive note, reading a nice comment that I got from Electric Witch 44, which says, "So I haven't seen anything about you that suggests you're a racist or a misogynist or anything like that. Appreciate, thank you, considering I get attacked on that side, from that side too. I think people just don't like that you say the facts." Exactly. People don't like facts sometimes, and it's like, rather than come to terms with the facts, they just attack you for it instead. Beautifully put. Thank you so much, Electric Witch, and I will close on that, on those wise words. As always, noble ones, thank you so much for your support, and absolutely, if you disagree with something we say, if you think we got something wrong, because I mean we are still only humans, then feel free to let us know. And if we forgot to take into consideration something specifically, absolutely, I am more than happy for constructive criticism, and I'm more than happy to be corrected, and I will debunk myself if I need to. I've done it before. What I dislike, however, is when people, just because they're butthurt by the fact that on that occasion I debunked something that the left is pushing, and on this other occasion I debunked something that the right wing is pushing, and now they are butthurt because they're like, no, you have to hide that. I'm not gonna do that, because that was my promise to all of you. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, the Metatron has spread his wings. Goodbye, noble ones.